4 in the morning. That's when my phone buzzed. I wasn't sleeping anyway. Work had been brutal lately, and my mind was still running through tomorrow's presentation. But when I saw her name on the screen, everything stopped. Something came up. Relax, I'll explain, Sue. I stared at that message for a full minute. My wife, who triple-checks every text before sending it, who gets annoyed when I use "you are" instead of "your," had just sent me a message with a typo. At 4 in the morning. From wherever she wasn't supposed to be. She was supposed to be at her sister's place. Girls' night, she'd said. Wine and movies, back tomorrow morning. That was the plan. That was always the plan these days. I sat up in bed, looking at those words. Something came up. At 4 a.m. Relax. Like I was supposed to just shrug and go back to sleep. But here's the thing. I wasn't surprised. Disappointed, maybe. Angry, definitely. But surprised? No. The signs had been there for weeks. The extra attention to her appearance when going out with friends. The phone always face down now. The way she'd gotten defensive when I asked simple questions about her evenings out. How she suddenly had so many emergencies with girlfriends who apparently couldn't handle basic adult problems without her immediate presence. I thought about calling her sister, just to check. But why? I already knew what I'd find out. Instead, I typed back. No need to explain. Stay with him. You're single now. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Because that's what this was about, wasn't it? Some guy she'd been sneaking around with, thinking I was too stupid or too trusting to notice. My phone immediately started buzzing. Call after call. I declined each one and turned the ringer off. 20 minutes later, I heard tires screeching in our driveway. Then frantic knocking. Then the doorbell, over and over. I took my time getting up, put on a shirt, walked slowly to the front door. Through the peephole, I could see her standing there, still in the dress she'd worn to her sister's house. Hair messed up, makeup smeared, looking like she'd been crying the entire drive home. Honey, please open the door. Her voice was shaky, desperate. I can explain everything. I unlocked the door but kept the chain on, opening it just enough to see her face clearly. It's 4:30 in the morning, I said calmly. Funny how you found time to come home now. Baby, please, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I kept my voice level, steady. You were supposed to be at your sister's. You're not. You texted me at 4 a.m. saying something came up. And now you're here looking like you just left somewhere you shouldn't have been. She pressed her face closer to the crack in the door. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you got caught. The tears were flowing freely now. I was helping a friend. There was an emergency. At 4 a.m. Yes. What kind of emergency? She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. She needed someone to talk to. Her boyfriend broke up with her and... Which friend? Another pause. Melissa. Melissa moved to Portland 6 months ago. Her face went white. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I just stood there, watching her scramble for another lie. I meant Jessica. Jessica needed help. With what exactly? She was having a panic attack and... At 4 a.m., Jessica called you instead of 911? Instead of her family? Instead of any of the other friends she's known longer than you? She was crying harder now. Please, just let me in. Let me explain properly. You've had 25 minutes to think of an explanation. This is the best you can do. I could see neighbors' lights starting to come on. Good. Let them see exactly what kind of person she chose to be. I'm telling the truth. No, you're not. And we both know it. I started to close the door, but she pressed against it. Where are you going to go? I asked. Back to wherever you just came from? Or are you finally ready to be honest? She just kept crying, kept begging me to let her in. But I'd already made my decision the moment I sent that text. Some choices you can't take back. And some people show you exactly who they are when they think nobody's watching. My wife just showed me everything I needed to know. She wasn't giving up. If anything, her desperation was getting worse. Please, I'm begging you. Just 5 minutes to explain. I looked at her through the gap in the door. Still in that black dress I'd complimented when she left yesterday evening. Heels she'd claimed were comfortable enough for a casual night with my sister. Right. 5 minutes, I said. Here, on the porch. Start talking. Can't we do this inside? The neighbors are already awake, thanks to your dramatic entrance. Besides, you didn't seem too worried about privacy when you were texting me at 4 a.m. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing her mascara even more. Okay. Jessica called me around 1 a.m. She was having a breakdown about her job and, stop. I held up a hand. Jessica works night shifts at the hospital. She's been working nights for 2 years. Why would she be having a breakdown about work at 1 a.m. when that's literally when she starts her shift? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Also, I continued, Jessica's been dating that paramedic for 8 months now. Pretty serious relationship. So when exactly did this mysterious boyfriend breakup happen that you mentioned 30 seconds ago? I got confused. I meant, you needed time to come up with a better story. She slumped against the door frame. You're not even trying to believe me. I'm trying to understand how someone with your intelligence thought I'd believe this garbage. I kept my tone conversational, almost friendly. I mean, you could have at least picked a friend whose work schedule I don't know. Or checked her Facebook to see if she actually broke up with someone recently. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, you weren't. But that happened hours ago, not 20 minutes ago when you threw together this explanation. A car drove by slowly. Probably Mr. Garrett from 2 houses down, heading to his early morning shift. He gave us a long look. I waved. This is humiliating, she whispered. Is it? I hadn't noticed. She looked up at me with those eyes that used to make me forget whatever I was annoyed about. Used to. I know how this looks, but I swear to you. How does it look? What? Tell me how this looks from my perspective. She was quiet for a moment. Like I was cheating. Exactly like you were cheating. Because you were cheating. I wasn't. Then where were you? I told you with Jessica. Whose phone number you're going to give me right now, so I can call and confirm your story. Panic flashed across her face. She's probably asleep. She was awake enough for a crisis at 1 a.m. I'm sure she won't mind a follow-up call. I don't have her number memorized. I almost laughed out loud. You don't have Jessica's number memorized? Jessica, who you've been friends with since college. Jessica, who was in our wedding party. She started crying again, but it felt different now. Less panicked, more defeated. Where's your car? I asked, looking past her to the driveway. What? Your car? You drove to your sister's yesterday. Where's your car? She turned to look at her Honda sitting in the driveway. It's right there. Interesting. Because that car has been here all night. Her face went completely white. I got up around midnight to get some water. Looked out the kitchen window. Your car was here. I figured you'd taken an Uber to avoid drinking and driving. Responsible choice, I thought. She was shaking now. So if your car was here, and you were supposedly at your sister's house across town, how exactly did you get back and forth? Did Jessica's crisis involve picking you up and dropping you off? Because that seems like a lot of back and forth for someone having a breakdown. I can explain. I'm sure you can. You're very creative. But here's the thing. I already called your sister. The blood drained from her face completely. Called her about 20 minutes ago, actually. Right after your touching performance on the porch started. Woke her up. She was very confused about why I was asking if you were there, considering she hasn't seen you in 3 weeks. She sat down hard on the porch step. She also mentioned that you canceled your plans with her yesterday morning. Something about something important came up. Funny how things keep coming up for you lately. I crouched down, so we were at eye level. So let's try this one more time. Where were you? And this time, maybe try the truth. It's actually easier to remember than lies. She was sobbing now, but I felt nothing. No urge to comfort her. No guilt about being harsh. Just curiosity about whether she'd finally be honest. I was. She started, then stopped. Yes. I can't. Can't what? Can't tell the truth? Or can't face the consequences of it? She looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Not of me, but of losing everything she'd risked by making the choices she'd made. If I tell you the truth, she whispered, you'll never forgive me. If you don't tell me the truth, there's nothing to forgive. Because this conversation ends here, and you can spend the night wherever you spent the last 4 hours. She took a shaky breath. I was with someone. There it was. Finally, I was with someone. I stood up slowly, brushing off my knees. There we go. See how much simpler the truth is. She was still sitting on the step, looking like her world had just collapsed. Which, to be fair, it had. It's not what you think. Let me guess. It just happened. You didn't plan it. You were vulnerable. He was there. One thing led to another. I counted off on my fingers. Did I miss any of the classics? She stared up at me. How can you be so calm about this? Because I'm not surprised. I told you that already. What do you mean you're not surprised? I leaned against the doorframe. The late nights out became more frequent about 2 months ago. The phone always face down became standard 3 weeks ago. The new workout routine started last month. Very dedicated, by the way. I was impressed. Her jaw dropped slightly. Oh, and the sudden interest in clothes shopping. For someone who used to buy everything online, you sure started enjoying those long Saturday trips to the mall. Always coming home with bags from stores I'd never heard of. You were watching me? I was married to you. I noticed things. Like how you started doing your hair differently on certain days. Or how you'd shower as soon as you got home from these mysterious errands. Or how you suddenly needed to charge your phone in the other room instead of on your nightstand. She was crying silently now. The funniest part was how you started picking fights with me over nothing. Almost like you were trying to justify something to yourself. I wasn't. Remember 2 weeks ago? You got angry because I loaded the dishwasher wrong. We had a whole argument about it. You stormed out to clear your head and didn't come back until midnight. She nodded miserably. That was the night I knew for sure. Because in 8 years of marriage, you've never once cared how I loaded the dishwasher. But you needed a reason to leave the house angry, didn't you? I'm sorry. For which part? The cheating, the lying, or getting caught? She didn't answer. So who is he? Does it matter? It does to me. I'd like to know who my wife chose over her marriage. She took a shaky breath. Trevor. From work. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. Trevor? Trevor Morrison? The guy from accounting who wears those cheap suits and thinks he's God's gift to women. Don't. No, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. I was still chuckling. Trevor. The same Trevor who hit on Jessica at the company Christmas party while his girlfriend was in the bathroom. It's not about him. Oh, but it is. Because you didn't just cheat on me. You cheated on me with Trevor Morrison. Do you know what that tells me about how little you valued what we had? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I mean, if you're going to blow up your marriage, at least pick someone impressive. Someone who makes me think, well, I can see why she'd risk everything for him. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Speaking of honest, I should probably call Trevor's girlfriend. What's her name again? Ashley. She should know what her boyfriend was doing tonight. No, please. Why not? She has a right to know, just like I did. Because it'll ruin everything. Everything's already ruined. You ruined it when you made your choice. She stood up abruptly. It was one time. Tonight was one time. How many other times were there? That's the only time. I swear. How long have you been seeing him? She looked away. How long? 6 weeks. 6 weeks of what exactly? Flirting? Texting? Meeting for coffee? Or 6 weeks of tonight? We only. Only what? Tonight was the first time we actually had sex. She nodded, not meeting my eyes. But you've been emotionally cheating for 6 weeks. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Walk me through your plan. Were you going to leave me for Trevor? Or just keep sneaking around indefinitely? I don't know. I wasn't thinking. You weren't thinking for 6 weeks? That's a lot of not thinking. My phone buzzed. A text message. I glanced at it. Interesting. That's my lawyer texting me back. Apparently, some people do work at 4 a.m. Her eyes went wide. Your lawyer? I called him right after I called your sister. Left a voicemail. He's an early riser, apparently. You called your lawyer before you even talked to me? I called my lawyer after you texted me at 4 a.m. because I knew exactly what that text meant, and I knew exactly what I needed to do about it. But what if you were wrong? What if it really was an emergency? Then you would have answered my first phone call, or my second, or my third. She sat back down on the step, looking defeated. The lawyer wants to meet this morning. 9 a.m. I should probably get some sleep before then. Wait, you can't just. We need to talk about this. We are talking about it. You cheated. You lied about it. You got caught. What else is there to discuss? What we're going to do now. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to divorce you. Just like that. Just like that. She started crying harder. What about counseling? What about working through this? What's to work through? You chose Trevor over me. Tonight, you chose him again by lying about it. Every choice you've made for 6 weeks has been against our marriage. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a series of deliberate decisions. And now I'm making mine. I turned to go back inside. Where am I supposed to go? I suggest Trevor's place. Since that's where you want to be anyway. He lives with Ashley. Then I guess you both have some explaining to do. I closed the door and locked it. I made it about 10 feet into the house before she started pounding on the door again. Please. I have nowhere to go. I ignored her and put on a pot of coffee. If I was meeting with a lawyer in a few hours, I might as well be alert for it. The pounding got more frantic. Then I heard her phone ringing. Then more crying. Then her phone again. I was pouring my first cup when she started shouting through the door. He won't answer. Trevor won't answer his phone. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. His girlfriend probably found out. I called back. Funny how that works. This is insane. You're being completely unreasonable. I opened the door again, coffee mug in hand. She was a mess. Mascara streaks, hair disheveled. That dress now wrinkled from sitting on concrete steps. Unreasonable? Let me see if I understand this correctly. You cheat on me for 6 weeks, lie to my face repeatedly, sneak around behind my back, and when you get caught, I'm the one being unreasonable. It didn't mean anything. If it didn't mean anything, why did you do it? I don't know. That's not an answer. She pressed her hands to her face. I felt like we were just roommates. Like the spark was gone. So instead of talking to me about it, you decided to find your spark with Trevor Morrison. It wasn't supposed to be Trevor specifically. It just happened. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Every day for 6 weeks, you chose to text him instead of me. You chose to lie to me about where you were going. You chose to dress up for him. You chose to sneak around. I know. And I'm sorry. Sorry you did it. Or sorry you got caught. She was quiet. Because if you're just sorry you got caught, then this conversation is pointless. I'm sorry I did it. Are you? Because an hour ago you were still lying about it. I was scared. Of what? Of this. Of you hating me. Of losing everything. I took a sip of my coffee. You should have thought about that 6 weeks ago. Can't we try to fix this? People work through affairs all the time. Some people do. But those people are usually dealing with spouses who come clean immediately, show genuine remorse, and are willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild trust. I'll do whatever it takes. Will you? Because 10 minutes ago you were still protecting Trevor by begging me not to call his girlfriend. She looked stricken. That's not the behavior of someone who's genuinely sorry. That's someone who's sorry they got caught and wants to minimize the damage to everyone except their betrayed husband. My phone started ringing. I looked at the screen. That's my mother-in-law, I said. Interesting. It's 5 a.m. and she's calling me. I wonder how she found out about tonight's drama. I answered the call on speaker. Hello, Margaret. What's going on? Sarah called me crying, saying you locked her out of the house. I looked at my wife, Sarah, who had the grace to look embarrassed. Hi, Mom, Sarah called weakly. Sarah, what happened? He said you two are getting divorced. Margaret, I said calmly. Did Sarah tell you why I locked her out? She said you had a fight. Did she tell you where she was at 4 a.m. this morning? Silence on the other end. Did she mention that she's been having an affair for the past 6 weeks? That's not. Sarah, is that true? Sarah started crying again. I'll take that as a yes, Margaret said quietly. Sarah Marie, what have you done? It was a mistake, Mom. A 6-week mistake, I added. With a coworker. While lying to me about girls' nights and sister visits. Oh, honey. Margaret's voice was heavy with disappointment. Your father and I raised you better than this. Mom, please, you have to help me fix this. Fix this? Sarah, you broke your marriage. You can't just fix betrayal like it's a broken vase. I found myself respecting my mother-in-law more in that moment than I had in years. Margaret, I said, I'm meeting with a lawyer this morning. I wanted you to know that this decision isn't made in anger. It's made because trust, once broken like this, can't be repaired. I understand, she said sadly. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Thank you. Sarah, you come home right now. Your father and I need to talk to you. After she hung up, Sarah looked up at me with desperate eyes. My own mother is disappointed in me. She should be. This could have stayed between us. We could have worked through it privately. Is that what you wanted? To sweep this under the rug. I wanted a chance to make it right. You had chances. Every day for 6 weeks, you had chances to make different choices. Every time you lied to me, you had a chance to tell the truth instead. But people can change. People can learn from mistakes. I finished my coffee and set the mug down. You're not wrong. People can change. But you know what? I've changed too. I've learned that I deserve better than someone who needs to cheat on me to figure out what they want. So that's it. 8 years of marriage, and you're just throwing it away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already threw it away when you chose Trevor. Her phone started ringing again. She looked at it, and her face fell. That's my sister. Mom must have called her. Answer it. I can't face her right now. You're going to have to face everyone eventually. Your choices don't just affect us. The ringing stopped, then started again. Answer the phone, Sarah. She did, reluctantly. Hi, Lisa. I could hear her sister's voice through the phone, angry and disappointed. Are you insane? Are you completely out of your mind? Sarah just cried. 8 years, Sarah. 8 years with a good man. And you threw it away for what? Some office romance. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You cheated. You lied. And now you're surprised that there are consequences. I walked over and gently took the phone. Hi, Lisa. I am so sorry, she said immediately. I'm embarrassed to be related to her right now. Thank you for saying that. Are you okay? I will be. Good. You deserve better than this. I handed the phone back to Sarah, who was sobbing. Lisa, please. No. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. And don't expect me to feel sorry for you. The line went dead. Sarah looked up at me, mascara streaking down her face. Everyone's going to hate me. Probably. How can you be so cold about this? I'm not cold. I'm just done being the only one fighting for our marriage. She sat there on the step, looking completely defeated, and for the first time all night, I felt a tiny bit of pity for her, but not enough to change my mind. By 6 a.m., I had showered, dressed, and was reviewing paperwork for my lawyer meeting when 3 cars pulled into my driveway. Sarah's parents, her sister Lisa and brother-in-law Mike, and her uncle Robert, who apparently felt qualified to mediate family crises despite being divorced twice himself. Through the window, I watched them have a heated discussion with Sarah on the front lawn. Margaret was clearly furious, pointing and gesturing while Sarah cried. Robert was trying to play peacekeeper, and Lisa looked like she wanted to throttle her sister. Eventually, they approached the door. I opened it before they could knock. Good morning, everyone. We need to talk, Robert announced, like he was in charge of something. Actually, we don't. But I'm willing to listen for a few minutes before I leave for my appointment. Margaret stepped forward. Can we come in? This doesn't need to be a public spectacle. I looked at Sarah, still in that wrinkled dress, standing behind everyone like a scolded child. 5 minutes, I said, opening the door wider. They filed into my living room. Sarah sat on the couch she'd helped me pick out 3 years ago. Everyone else remained standing except Margaret, who took the chair across from her daughter. Look, Robert began. Marriages go through rough patches. This isn't the end of the world, isn't it? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, my wife chose another man over me for 6 weeks. That feels pretty final. People make mistakes. Uncle Robert, I interrupted. Didn't you cheat on Aunt Patricia? And then on your second wife? His face reddened. That's not relevant. Actually, it's completely relevant. You're asking me to take advice from someone who's been in Sarah's position twice. Lisa spoke up. He's right, Uncle Robert. Stay out of this. Lisa, Margaret warned. No, Mom. Sarah screwed up. Majorly. And now she has to live with the consequences. But they love each other, Robert protested. I almost laughed. Love? Robert, if Sarah loved me, she wouldn't have spent 6 weeks sneaking around with Trevor Morrison. Who's Trevor Morrison? Mike asked. The guy she's been sleeping with. Jesus, Sarah, Mike muttered. Margaret looked mortified. In our day, couples worked through these things. In your day, Margaret, women didn't have as many options to leave bad marriages. And men didn't have to accept being disrespected just to keep the peace. But you're throwing away 8 years. I'm not throwing away anything. Sarah already threw it away. Sarah finally spoke up. I made a terrible mistake. But it's over now. It's completely over. Is it? I asked. Because 2 hours ago, you were still protecting Trevor by begging me not to call his girlfriend. I was scared. Scared of what? Facing the consequences of your choices. Robert tried again. Look, you're both upset right now. Maybe you should take some time apart. Let emotions cool down. We are taking time apart. It's called divorce. But that's so permanent. Margaret said. So is adultery. Lisa nodded approvingly. Mike was staring at Sarah like he'd never seen her before. What exactly do you all want from me? I asked. To pretend this didn't happen? To act like 6 weeks of lying and cheating was just a rough patch? We want you to consider forgiveness, Margaret said quietly. I have considered it. I've forgiven Sarah. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to stay married to someone who betrayed me. That's not how marriage works, Robert declared. Actually, Robert, that's exactly how marriage works. When one person breaks the fundamental agreement of trust and fidelity, The other person gets to decide whether to stay or go. Sarah was crying again. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Sarah, what I want is a wife who doesn't cheat on me. That ship has sailed. People can change. Maybe, but I don't have to stick around to find out. Margaret stood up. You're being awfully cold about this. Am I? Let me ask you something, Margaret. If your neighbor came to you and said her husband was cheating on her for weeks, lying about it, sneaking around behind her back, what would you tell her to do? She was quiet. You'd tell her she deserves better, wouldn't you? You'd tell her not to accept that kind of treatment. That's different. How? Because you're family. No, Margaret. Sarah is family. I'm the guy she chose to betray. Lisa stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Sarah, you messed up. You lied. You cheated. You got caught. Stop asking everyone to clean up your mess. Lisa, no, Sarah. I'm embarrassed for you right now. This man has been nothing but good to you for 8 years, and you repay him by sneaking around with some loser from work. Trevor's not a loser. The words were out of her mouth before she could stop them. The room went dead silent. Mike started laughing. Actually laughing. Did she just defend the guy she cheated with? In front of her husband? Sarah's face went white. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said calmly. And thank you for that. Because it proves everything I've been saying. Margaret looked devastated. Sarah, how could you? He's not a bad person. Neither am I pointed out. But that didn't stop you from betraying me. Lisa was shaking her head. I can't even look at you right now. Robert made one last attempt. Look, emotions are running high. Why don't we all take a step back? Robert, I said firmly. I'm meeting with my lawyer in 2 hours. Sarah can stay with you, or her parents, or wherever she wants. But she's not staying here. You can't just kick her out. Actually, I can. This house is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. She has no legal right to be here if I don't want her here. Sarah looked shocked. The house is only in your name? We bought it before we got married. You never wanted to deal with the paperwork to add your name to the deed. Remember? She did remember. I could see it in her eyes. So what now? Margaret asked sadly. Now Sarah packs some clothes and goes home with you. I file for divorce. We divide up 8 years of shared property and go our separate ways. Just like that. Just like that. Mike spoke up for the first time in a while. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this exactly right. Lisa nodded. Me too. Margaret looked at her daughters-in-law approvingly. Maybe you are. Sarah stood up shakily. Can I at least pack some things? Of course. Take whatever you need. She headed toward the bedroom, then stopped and turned around. I really am sorry. For all of it. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo 6 weeks of choices. After she disappeared upstairs, Margaret approached me. I failed her somehow. As a mother. No, you didn't. You raised her with good values. She chose to ignore them. Will you be okay? Yeah, I'll be fine. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I genuinely believed that was true. 3 months later, I was sitting in my living room on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. The same living room where Sarah's family had tried to convince me to take her back. The same couch where she used to curl up and watch movies with me on lazy weekends. But now it was just my living room. My couch. My peaceful Saturday morning. The divorce papers had been finalized 2 weeks ago. Sarah had signed everything without contesting it, probably on advice from her lawyer who knew she had no grounds to fight anything. The house stayed mine, as did my retirement accounts and most of our assets, since she'd brought virtually nothing into the marriage financially. She'd moved in with her parents initially, which lasted about 3 weeks before her father got tired of her constant crying and her mother got tired of making excuses for her to their friends. Last I heard, she was renting a small apartment across town and working the same job where she'd met Trevor. Speaking of Trevor, that situation had imploded spectacularly. His girlfriend Ashley had indeed found out about the affair, but not from me. Apparently, Trevor had a habit of cheating, and Ashley had been keeping track of his phone records. Sarah wasn't his first side piece, just his most recent one. Ashley had confronted both of them at work in front of half their department. According to my former colleague Jason, who still worked there, it was legendary. Ashley had printed out text messages, photos, even hotel receipts she'd found. Sarah had tried to claim she didn't know Trevor had a girlfriend, which was a lie that fell apart when Ashley produced evidence that they'd all been at the same company events together. Trevor got fired for creating a hostile work environment. Sarah kept her job, but apparently became a pariah in the office. Nobody trusted her anymore, and her supervisor moved her to a different department where she wouldn't interact with people who knew about the scandal. The funniest part? Trevor had moved on to another woman within 2 weeks of the blow-up. Some bartender he'd met while drowning his sorrows after losing his job. Sarah had apparently tried to contact him several times, but he'd blocked her number. She'd gotten exactly what she deserved. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the message style immediately. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I'm getting help. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I made such terrible choices. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to be a better person. I deleted it without responding. She'd tried reaching out several times over the past 3 months, through text, email, even through her sister Lisa one time. I'd ignored all of it. There was nothing left to say. Lisa had apologized for that, by the way. She'd called me a month after the divorce to tell me Sarah had begged her to check on me and see if I was ready to talk. I told her she was delusional. Lisa had said, "You've moved on, and she needs to do the same." Lisa was right. I had moved on. Not in the sense of dating anyone new. I wasn't ready for that yet, but in the sense of building a life that was entirely mine. I'd redecorated the house, gotten rid of furniture that reminded me of her, bought new things that reflected my taste alone. I'd reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage, guys Sarah had never liked because they were immature or bad influences. Turned out, they were just normal guys who liked watching football and playing poker and talking about things other than home renovation projects and couple social dynamics. I'd started working out regularly, taken up hiking, even learned to cook properly instead of just grilling everything or ordering takeout. I was in the best shape of my life, both physically and mentally. Work was going well too. Without the constant stress of wondering what Sarah was really doing or who she was really with, I'd been able to focus completely on my career. I'd gotten a promotion last month, with a raise that more than covered the increased expenses of living alone. The house felt bigger without her stuff everywhere, but also more peaceful. No more arguments about household chores or social obligations, or spending money on things we didn't need. No more walking on eggshells around her moods, or trying to decode what she really meant when she said she was fine. Just quiet, honest, uncomplicated peace. My neighbor Paul knocked on the door around noon. "Hey, you want to grab lunch?" Karen's visiting her sister, and I'm tired of my own cooking. Paul had been a good friend through all of this. He'd never liked Sarah much, said she seemed high maintenance, but he'd been too polite to say anything while we were married. After the divorce, he'd admitted he'd always thought I could do better. "Sure. Where do you want to go?" "That new place downtown. I heard they have good burgers." As we walked to his truck, he asked, "How are you doing?" "Genuinely. Good," I said, and meant it. "Actually, better than good." "Great. No regrets." "About the divorce?" "None." "What about the marriage itself?" "I thought about that. I don't regret the marriage. I learned a lot about what I want and what I won't tolerate, and I'm grateful it ended when it did, instead of dragging on for years." "Fair enough." We drove in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. "You know, Karen's sister has this friend." "Not yet, Paul. But thanks." "Fair enough. But when you're ready, let me know. Apparently, she's nothing like Sarah." "That would be a good start." We both laughed. Later that evening, I was grilling dinner on my back patio when I got a call from Margaret. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, Margaret." "Hi. I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all. How are you?" "I'm fine. I wanted to call and see how you were doing." "I'm doing well. Thank you for asking." "Good. I'm glad to hear that." She paused. "I also wanted to apologize again for how things ended, and for trying to pressure you to take her back. You were trying to protect your daughter. I understand that. I was. But you were right about everything. Sarah made her choices, and you deserved better than what she gave you." "How is she doing?" "Honestly, not well. She's struggling with the consequences of what she did. But that's not your problem anymore." "No, it's not. I just wanted you to know that her father and I think you handled everything with more grace than she deserved. You could have made things much worse for her, and you didn't. I didn't want to make things worse. I just wanted them to end. Well, they have. And I hope you find happiness with someone who appreciates what a good man you are." After we hung up, I stood on my patio looking out at my yard, my neighborhood, my life. Everything was exactly as I wanted it. Sarah had texted me at 4 a.m. thinking she could manipulate the situation control the narrative, minimize the consequences. She'd gambled that I'd be too hurt or too desperate to actually follow through on ending our marriage. She'd been wrong about everything. The best decision I ever made was sending that text. No need to explain. Stay with him. You're single now. Because it turned out, being single was exactly what I needed to be. And for the first time in years, I was genuinely, completely, undeniably happy.